Genesys is a format that recently got announced, and for the past week, I've been trying to work on this list and on this deck. And some of you, if you've been joining the live streams, you guys saw the progression of how we got to this point. The first thing that I checked on the list is level eater. How many points is level eater worth? And of course, it's going to be maxed out, entire 100. So we have to get real creative because some of the boss monsters we would typically use are not accessible because we have to play with 0 points basically, because we have to take into account that level eater is using up all the points that we have. But of course, there's still some things that you could do based on the engine requirements that you can implement within the deck, but you're compromising the deck's consistency. That's what I want to avoid. So in this variant, I'm going to be showing you what you can do if you go cookie cutter and go very streamlined and refine it, but still be versatile enough. Basically what level eater is meant to provide, right? It's meant to give you versatility to pivot and be able to salvage your resources that you currently invested. This is going to be the first combo. It's going to be Armageddon and Gofu, right? Gofu, Armageddon sends level eater. Oh, that little guy. I missed that little guy so much. Reduce the Gofu. Go into Excel. Excel will send your Synchron. We right here in the past, we would send Jet Synchron, but Jet Synchron's 1 point, so we can't even play that. But in this case, we're going to play Rev because Rev is free. And we're going to go ahead and increase, making it level 8. Reduce, making it level 7. So 7 and 1 is 8. Us access to Diabolantis, and the cool thing about Diabolantis is it can give us access to level eater, assuming we don't open up with Knight. So I'll be showing you guys those combos later, but for now, that's going to be one of its primary roles when you don't open up Knight or Grepher, right? This can give you access to level eater, and once you get access to level eater, opens up your possibilities. Okay, so now we're going to send another plant, which is going to be Dandelion. Dandelion triggers. The cool thing is Dandy is 0, so that's awesome. And something that I overlooked when I was constructing this list was this has an effect that you can turn an insect or a plant you control into a tuner. So what happens here is most of the time you're going to want to get your formula access through him because you have a level 1 and a level 1, and you can turn one of them into a level 1 tuner. And the cool thing about that is that you can just make level eater a tuner, and you can keep these on field and just keep using your formula to synchro climb, which is the whole inception of how we develop the synchro climb aspect. So then it'll vary depending on what your extra deck looks like, but we're gonna reduce, make level eater tuner. We're gonna go into a formula synchron, and then this is where the synchro climb begins, right? Level 8, reduce it, make it level 6, go into a level 3, and that's all we're doing here. We're just trying to synchro climb until we get to a point where we get the levels required for the end board that we need. That's the cool thing about level eater. And there's many things you can do, right? The extra deck is, I mean, not so many because you're limited, right? Oh yeah, also another thing, you are playing the Immortal Dragon because initially it was meant to synchro into the RDA cards, but I noticed that because you want majority of your card variations to have synergy, that's where this comes up. I'll show you that in the later combos, but it's there to send Plague. Plague is a dark that you can dump off Knight and off of Grepher, so you want to have as much synergy as possible with the entirety of your deck. It's not just there just to dump Plague. Okay, so then now we go into Asti. Asti will then revive our formula synchron. And remember, the reason we play the RDA cards is because it gives you materials to synchro with, because you're lacking non-tuners. Level eater can only get you so far unless you start playing other cards like Cupid Pitch, but then you're climbing into what? This has purpose going second into a board because of its ability to nuke all attack position monsters, right? So there's applicability there. So you don't want to just have synchro climb. You'll have versatility, but what are you going to synchro climb into, right? So that's the issue with Cupid Pitch. Okay, so then now we go ahead and mill for Rev. We go into our Hot Red, which right now, Omnis are pretty difficult to get around or get to. Not many decks can produce Omnis or cards like Abyss. Okay, so this is going to be our end board, right? It doesn't seem like much. But because of how the deck functions altogether is why this is decently positioned, right? Because you have a nuke, you have a face-up spawn trap negate, and you have another nuke here. Depending on whether you want to go for multiple nukes or you want to go for a Cheng-Ying, then you can sequence your cards with the RDA cards, as you'll see later in the deck profile. But this is going to just be double nuke and a hot red face-up negate, which is pretty good in a slow format like Genesys. All right, so remember how I mentioned you want your cards to have synergy with the majority of the card variations, because you don't want this card to pair with that card but not pair with the third card, right? That's kind of what you want to do. And they all have to basically get you to the same sequence for the most part. Of course, some of them will vary depending on what card variation you have. I think this is probably the best one because it gets you access to a layered interaction through Gaia, right? Or it gives you another form of extension through a tuner, right? But this is really cool. This is where you use this guy to dump your plague, and usually this is how you get into your RDA cards, because a Scard requires you to have a dark non-tuner. It's very specific for its materials. Okay, so you level E, reduce, and remember, you can end on with whatever extra deck that you want depending on the options that you have. And I'm just trying to get to the same board as I did with the first combo with Abyss, double nuke, right? Because what you want to do is do that board, not completely end the game, but just get you into the next turn to then snowball with your RDA cards, right? Because then you have your RDAs in grave, and then you control with that, right? Because then you just crash anything, revive your RDA, get access to your red zone, your golem, right? And then just control tempo that way. That's generally how you want to do it. And that's usually enough, seeing as how the tempo is for this format, right? There's some pretty cool niche things you can do as well, where you leave the Scarred and then Synchro with that away into Dark Synchro, and then you nuke their board on their turn with an immune satellite play or Genic Synchro play. It's pretty cool, but for the video I'm just doing this. We go for Hot Red, top deck for Plague, get access to our Golem, and this is really good. This is really good because Golem and Changing pair so well together, because you can banish a monster with 2k higher attack and then trigger the Changing. You have to be very specific in when you do it, otherwise if you do it too prematurely it just won't be impactful enough. But this is what you want to end on, basically, whether you have this setup or you would have made into the Jura or Satellite. It's pretty cool. And now we go on to our next warrior, our next warriors, right? Grepher Mali, what does that do for you? Because that's why you play it. What can it facilitate? And this is going to be basically the same thing, except you're doing it in a different way, right? And this is what I was referring to, where Mantis gives you access to your Leveweeder, right? And then this is where it comes up where you need to play the Immortal Dragon, right? You turn the Leveweeder into a tuner, you climb into Immortal Dragon, you dump your Plague, gives you a form of extension, level eat that, go into a 5, and then instead of starting with Excel, we are interchanging the way we do our sequence, which is the cool thing that you want any deck to have. You don't want to just be fixed on a particular line where you can't deviate, you can't do anything different, right? Because that'll produce inconsistencies. And as you see here, we can do it in a different way. Revive. Go for Croc, get a draw here. Reduce. We're gonna get into our RDAs here. See? A different sequence, but we're still getting to the same end goal. Form the Synchron, draw a card. We drew 2 here. So if we want to leave Croc there, we could have, right? We go into Abyss. Only difference here is that we don't get access to our trap. Up deck, level eat. And then on their turn, we just go effects. Whether you want to go for Jura or Satellite, it's up to you. I think Satellite is a bit better, because it'll summon back all of your Stardust and your Synchrons, right? Depending on, because it summons up to 3. So you can bring back both Stardust and a Formula, and then try to do another play that way. And then you would have triggered your Changing, because your Plague would have gone banished. And now we have our other portion of our deck, right? Because I showed you what we can do with Gofu and Knight, Grepher, right? Because they're basically meant to be pitching darks to get access to Leviator. But what if we don't get access to either of those? And that's why you need cards like this, because melee, you need to find a way to discard it. You need to be able to get it out of your hand to get value off of it, because there's 3 melees that you can get. That's 3 bodies. So you need something that has synergy that's trying to do something similar. And this gives you access to a level 8 Synchro, which means it gives you access to your Mantis, gets you access to your Leviator. And the reason that's important is because of this. This is why this is what I was referring to about the Immortal Dragon being quite essential. Because otherwise, this card version wouldn't work in the way that we needed it to, right? And this is where it's crucial. Because right here, our Mantis is going to make our Leviator into a tuner. And we reduce our melee, so now we go for a 6, right? And this is what we want. We want to be able to have sequences that are interchangeable, no matter the card variation, right? So we reduce. So once again, right here, you can deviate depending on the extra deck, depending on what it is you're trying to do, right? But this is how I wanted to get to a 5, because usually with Gofu, we start with Excel first, but these lines, we start them in reverse. We do Excel later. And we go for Excel. Excel will then dump our Rev, increasing it, reduce, and we climb into our ASD. ASD will then revive our Plague. We then level 8 our Mantis. We Synchro into an 8. I always feel weird. I'm not sure if it's you guys as well, where 3 materials make it into an 8. It just seems like a waste. But it's just the way you want to make sure you don't clog your board. That's why you have to kind of like use up all those materials. Okay, reduce. We go into our Marcher. Revive. We go into our Hot Red. See? The card duration was different, but we're still fulfilling the same end board. We go for Jura. Top deck for Plague. On their turn, we have Double Nuke, Satellite, right? Or if you play Crystal Wing, you can make Crystal Wing there as well. And then this guy, if he's destroyed, he just floats into all of your Stardust or Synchron cards. And we're finally to the last combo. Because remember, I want to be consistent. Because if your deck is not consistent, you already lost, right? That's what you want. That's a prerequisite for any decent deck, at the very least. You want to be able to be consistent and have a chance to play, right? And let them try to prevent you from playing. You don't want your deck to prevent you from playing. That's the worst. Okay, so this is still not gonna be as great as the other combos, but it can produce something, which is what you want, right? It allows you to bait. It allows you to play with the rest of your hand, because this is just showing you with the minimal amount of card variation that you might see, right? And then it'll vary depending on the rest of your hand. Right, so we converted 2 cards into a nuke and a face of a card negate. And the way the format is, it revolves around 2+ card combos, and this is not bad. Still have other cards as well, so you could have progressed, you could have extended this play and build your combo, but then that's 3 card combos, and I want to just showcase the minimal amount. It's more likely that you open up the 2 card variations than the 3 card variations, right? Because it's very specific. And now let me show you the list. Here is the list. It's a very cookie cutter. It's very straightforward. You just see Grepher, Knight, right? Darks. It's a dark deck. So this is what I'm referring to. So you have your primary cards, right? It's going to be Knight, Gofu. This is what you want to open. If you don't, you need to boost consistency so you can see some sort of card quality that's similar. Then you move on to Grepher, and Grepher requires darks, so you have a bunch of darks. You have Mali, you have Vision, you have access to Map to get you access to Gofu. And then of course you want to be more consistent, so that's why we play the Small World, because Small World bridges everything. This gives you access to anything that you're missing. If you have Knight and you're missing Gofu, you can bridge with any of the other ones. You can go into Grepher, into Vision, into Gofu. You can also bridge into Walker, Walker, because you go into Vision, into Gofu, into Walker. It just boosts your consistency. It's insane. Of course, some of the card variation that you can do, the reason why you play Mali is because this gives you access to an 8, which is huge, because you want different card variations to do something similar, and these do exactly that, because this gives you access to your level eater, whereas you go summon this, special this, go 8 there. You can go start your play without having to normal summon, which is why you can play Sphere mode. You can go discard Mali, special this, summon your ant, level effective summon Mali, you have a level 5 Heart Dark, special this, and now you present a very odd scenario where do they interact with you there? Do they let you progress? Because if you get to SD, then that means it makes it really weird for them to interact, because they can just chain SD, assuming they want to interact with it, which is huge. That's huge. And because you want to just open up with Vision, you want to have access to this, and you want to make sure that this is your grind game, because as I mentioned earlier, you do your board, and then once your RDAs are established, then your Gaia can just give you the attrition that you require, right? It just allows you to stay in the game, because anything that would be destroyed, you trigger this, revive your RDA, and then this will search your Golem or your red zone, and then you control tempo that way after you simplified the game. And then of course you have your engine requirements, you have your Revolution Synchron, you dump it off of your Excel, you have Dandy to dump off of your Mantis, and of course Plague. You just need these. This allows you to have a formula play. And then of course the star of the deck, which is 100 points, Level Eater. Insane. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be showing you guys another variant where you do an insane board where it requires more bricks, which is going to compromise the consistency of the deck, but nonetheless it's still something that you can do. That should be on later this week. And then you have your non-engine. I needed to pick something that was good going first or second, and this fit that criteria, right? You go in second, you can book cards and force things, and then going first you can set it, and you have so many things you want to discard, right? You can discard Mali, you can discard this, stand, discard leg, so it's not horrible. This can search you this, discard for that, right? It's awesome. And then of course Dark Wheeler, because you need something to do with boards that do basically what we're doing. I thought this was just essential. I feel like you just need this for this deck, because all you need to do is just do this, and then you can push through 2 interactions. The extra deck: Formula, Marcher, Excel, Immortal, Stardust, SD, Mantis. This one is a bit interesting because throughout my testing, I'm yet to summon this, so I might end up swapping it. But the theory behind this is it's a blowout, because you can go into him late game, and this is treated as an RDA, so you can revive it off of this, which is huge. And this will get the benefits off of red zone, which is even better, right? Because this requires you to have an RDA to get the pop, which is being able to just establish this guy and then destroy it somehow, and then you just somehow crash, revive it, and then nuke again, right? And it just seems insane in theory, but I'm yet to summon it. I think I require a level 7 more, so not too sure on this one. And of course you are RDA, Scarred, Hot Red. The reason you play this is because there's a very niche scenario in which it can come up, and that's when you open up with Gofu and your Knights. If you go summon Gofu, special Gofu, summon Knight, and they stop you there, and let's say you have access to either of this, it's like a Hail Mary. You're gonna go into Croc, Croc will draw you a card, and if you have access to these two, then you're perfectly fine, because all you do then is you go Croc effect, discard the Vision and your Malicious, destroying whatever, whether it be the Croc itself, or you can set a card and pop a card and do that. All you want to do is just get these to the graveyard. This will trigger, giving you access to Gaia with insert this, and then you have this engraved, and then you just snowball from there. That's very niche. Level 9 comes up a lot. And then of course, Satellite Warrior, you need this part of your end board. And then these two are the ones that are still the flex spots. I think it'd be around these 3, but I think more so these 2. But I think the more I think about it, I think just it's mainly just this. It's a lot of fun. Genesis, we get to play Level Eater, and awesome. And of course, the side deck, you can change it. I just felt that this is very generic enough to just deal with whatever it is that I'm lacking. In second, break the board. Going first, you put this in because Dark Wheeler does nothing for you. Going first. So. But anyways, that's gonna be it. Hopefully enjoy the video. Subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching.